It was an offseason that we will all remember. And in the final season of the Pac-12 as we know it, comes season 3 of the It Factory. It will be full of players that are on preseason watch lists, will be on future NFL draft lists. As always, we will take the helmet off of the top players on the West Coast and tap into who they are and why they stand out. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome back to the It Factory. Welcome back, or welcome to the It Factory. I am your host, Yogi Roth. We've done a lot of these episodes. I think almost 300 on this podcast platform. It's season 3 for us here at the It Factory. And really, since I started doing podcasts, I knew in the back of my mind today's guest would appear on the show. Met him at 11, and now he's 23. You know the name because he's a household name with what he's done with his platform in college football at UCLA. Yes, it's your favorite quarterback's favorite quarterback, Chase Griffin. Chase, welcome to the show. We did it, man. We did it.
Yes, sir. We're here. What's up, Yogi?
God, so much is up. I mean, I'm going through my phone in advance of this conversation, and I'm finding photos of you as an 11-year-old. I remember meeting you for the first time at Elite 11. What do you remember about your childhood around the concept of quarterback?
I think by nature, whether I knew it early on or not, I've just been a quarterback throughout life. My first sport was soccer. That's where I learned how to compete. But I've always been an older brother. I've always been someone who's thrived in situations where I can help others succeed. And I think the same way a quarterback depends on his teammates, I've been able to, build and depend on my support system around me and be able to use the talents I have, the gifts I have, the passions that I have in order to help others. And I think both on the field and off the field, learning what it meant to be a quarterback felt like more confirmation of how to be myself.
You talked about your passions, Chase. I love that word for you because I can remember you. Literally, I can see you at 11 years old, whether it's on the campus of Nike or in Redondo Beach, California, with a pen and a notepad. And just to kind of let the audience know how this thing works, at Elite 11, I'm kind of the host and coach. It's the premier quarterback camp for top high school QBs in America. Think of American Idol for high school quarterbacks. Here showed up this 11-year-old named Chase. CGZ is what we called Chase Griffin back then. And you showed up with our good friend George Whitfield, and you were basically a ball boy. But you weren't the traditional ball boy in terms of like standing in the back and getting guys Gatorade during sessions. You'd be front row taking notes. And my job as the host is to try to peek over the shoulder of Trevor Lawrence, peek over the shoulder of Davis Mills, Justin Fields, Tua Tagovailoa, and many, many others that are household names at the position. And I remember seeing your notes, Chase, and being like, this kid's 11. His notes are better than these guys that are on their way to being number 1 overall draft picks. When you think back to that time, like how would you characterize even your approach to the craft and the passion as you referenced?
Well, it's all new for me. And I think it's all new for all of the quarterbacks who go through that process as far as receiving that level of coaching in that environment with other top dogs. But for me, I had just started playing tackle football around a season or ago before. And I was relatively new to the middle school, high school, and especially college quarterback landscape. And so it was all fun for me. One thing that I think I've gotten from my parents has been no matter what it is, be myself in it and go 100% in it. And whether it be the notes where some of those meetings I was almost falling asleep because we were doing 12, 13, 14-hour days. But I was still going to push through because it felt like the best time of my life. And I think the folks who are able to find the joy in everything are not governed by, what's happening around them. And so whether I was tired, whether it was a new experience for me, or whether I was confused, it all felt like a chance to get better. And so I feel like I grew throughout that entire process.
What were your parents like for the young parents listening out there? And how were you raised? How do you remember that to instill that type of awareness around the environments that you would find yourself in?
I think I was always raised with a sense of belief in myself, and more importantly, knew that I was blessed to have two parents who had as much, if not more, belief in me than even I had, and parents who, no matter what my goals were or whatever my passion was, once I, vocalized this is what I want to do, they did the research, they became the support, they learned how to do things on their own in order to help me, to where, a sport like football that my father didn't play, my mother didn't play. I mean, she had brothers and a father who played football, but the amount of support that they gathered around me when I showed my aptitude for it, I'll never forget that. And I think they showed me what it meant to be a parent, and they showed me what it meant to be loved. And through that, I found that, through having that passion, that commitment, that love to anything that I care about, that it'll all work out in the end. And so I'm extremely grateful for them. And I'm also grateful for the opportunity of having been and continue to be a big brother and see how my siblings are affected by me and how I can pay it forward to those that I truly love and those who have been with me for an extremely long time.
We also called you the president because we feel like that could be in your future. You do whatever you want. Chase is also nominated for basically every award that matters, I think, in college football. Warfel Award watches, AFCA Good Works Team. You're up for NIL Athlete of the Year. You've won a bunch of awards already in your past. Just check out his bio. You can see all that stuff. But I love your essence so much. That's what's always stood out to me is your makeup. What kind of is within the blood that courses through your veins, man, and through your spirit. So with that said, your path, I don't know if people really know it that well, to get to UCLA. You're born at UCLA Hospital, like right across the way from the practice facility and practice field. But also, you were on your way to potentially an Ivy League school. And UCLA, to my understanding, was the lone Power 5 school that said, hey, we believe in you. What do you recall about that? And now here you are. You've been in college for a while. You're 23. What has the totality of your experience been like based on when you look at that day where you did end up signing that letter of intent?
It was a really long journey. It almost feels like an entire lifetime ago, just because once you get to the school that you sign at, it is an entirely new experience. And I believe the beginning of a new chapter in life. Prior to UCLA, my recruitment story was pretty dissimilar to a lot of other players in Power 5, especially other players who performed at the caliber that I did in high school. My sophomore year, I threw for 3,000 yards, was one of the better prospects in the state of Texas, but I was also 5'6.5", and coaches, they weren't able to get past that. My junior year did even better, threw for 4,100 yards, and that's when I started gathering some attention. I actually got my first offer through Coach Mike McDaniel from the Dolphins to Yale. And then over that time, I started getting more Ivy League interest, some smaller schools in Texas, some G5 schools. And then a week before I flew out to Harvard to go to that camp, this was summer before my senior year, I probably was going to commit to Harvard at that camp. And I got a text from Coach Kelly saying, Chip Kelly, let's hop on the phone. So we talked a little bit, and he asked what my availability was, in a couple weeks. And so it just so happened that we scheduled the camp that I was going to come to at UCLA about 4 days before I was heading to the Harvard camp. And I came out here, ripped it. I got offered, and prior to that trip, I told my mother, if they offer me, I'm gonna commit on spot. At heart, UCLA, I feel like matched who I am as a person and the history and fortitude of the brand that has been built here over time by the great students and athletes who have come through Westwood. I think matched the same passions and long-term goals that I had and the same vision that I have for myself. On top of that, I believe this is a program where I can get to the, professional leagues from. And, at the time it was NFL, That's still the dream. That's still the goal. But there's also XFL, USFL. There's a lot of great football. And I think UCLA has prepared me and continues to prepare me for that level. And then furthermore, off the field, now that NIL's happened, I'm sure we'll get into this more, but it's given me a great home base for me to practice my off the field opportunities.
I love that. Don't forget about the ELF, the European League of Football.
Oh, absolutely.
Paris Musketeers.
Yeah, let's do it.
Everybody's favorite team's favorite team. Okay, so to your point, let's talk about NIL. And you've done a lot of interviews on this. And as TJ Brass, our producer, and I were preparing for this conversation, I didn't want it to be like the other ones that you've done, because they've all been great, and you can go search them if you want that from Chase. But I want you to talk to me as though I am a student athlete on a college campus, but I'm not that player who is getting a massive NIL offer out of high school. I'm not that player that is having to get retained on a roster in college, and NIL is at the forefront of those conversations. I want you to talk to the student athlete who, similar to you, is leaning in and leveraging every ounce out of their college experience as a player, as a student, as a human, as a community member. And what would you say is kind of that first step to those that listen to this and say, I'm kind of like Chase?
Well, I would say being authentic to themselves. And I'm not saying that no one else can be me, but no one else can be me as well or better than I can be myself. The same way I can't be somebody else as well as they can be themselves. Authenticity has been key for me in NIL, but it's been key for me in life. The reason why at 11 at the Elite 11, I was taking notes like that, or, stealing reps, or doing well on the soccer field, or doing well in school, is because that's literally who I am. And I felt like if I wasn't doing that, I felt out of place in my own body because it just wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. I'd say NIL is beautiful because it allows for athletes for the first time to experience being themselves in totality and practicing that in a way that also generates value back for themselves. I think staying authentic is how, on the more micro level, you connect with your fan base or connect with your friends or connect with your following, which leads to better brand partnerships, leads to more partnerships that create value for those brands. And then on the larger scale, it creates a sense of confidence and a sense of successful practice and reps in being yourself and creating value from it, which is what you have to do to create generational wealth, what you have to do to create a sustainable family, what you have to do to go into whatever post-college and later in life missions you have.
We're often identified by the jersey we put on, the position we play. I mean, I did a book with our good friend Yogi Roth titled 5-Star QB, and the whole premise was all these quarterbacks are being labeled by somebody else and being told who they are. The same thing happened to you, right? I called you El Presidente, like the president. But we've done that since we knew you at 11, all in good spirit, but it's happened. So what would you say to the student athlete that's saying, okay, Chase, I hear you, be my most authentic self, but how do I do that? And I'm sure your teammates have even asked you that question. So what's your response there?
I'm a firm believer that you become what you are expected to be a lot of the time. And the issue with that is sometimes we place expectations of people who do not truly matter in our lives as the expectation that we conform to. For myself, there were a lot of people growing up who didn't have expectations for me. Thought I was too small to play quarterback, too small to, play at a school that I really wanted to go to. These are people who were watching me throw for 400 yards every Friday. And they still did not have those expectations for me. It didn't even matter. Whether they said that, it literally didn't even matter in my life. And to this day has not governed anything in my life. When you find the people who truly believe in you and you are the loudest voice in your head, then you're able to create a self-expectation of greatness. And it ends up being a self-fulfilling prophecy where you do things because you expect it, And then you reinforce those expectations because what you're doing generates success. And when you're able to build on wins each and every single day, and you're able to create a perspective of gratitude, of joy, and humility, then anything that comes at you doesn't look like an obstacle. They all look like opportunities.
So we're going to take that answer, clip it off, and give it to Ryan Gunderson, your quarterback coach, and just say, put this on loop in the QB room. So I want to go inside the QB room here for you. You've got Dante Moore, who's one of those 5-star quarterbacks. You got Ethan Garbers, who was a huge recruit coming out of high school as well. You've got Colin Schley, a big-time transfer. You've got Justin Martin. You've got yourself. You've got a really full QB room, and we know quarterback rooms don't have a lot of oxygen in there. We've talked about that since you were probably 11 years old. It's hard to find it in there, but you got to find it. So I wonder for you, in the position you're in as a leader on this team, a leader in the space of NIL, just a leader in general, how have you supported a quarterback room that's got different ages, different recruiting archetypes, different snap counts? How have you been able to help that room? What have you observed in that room around the concept you just said about not being governed by other people's opinions of you?
I think there's really two things that have been key for me, and both of them stem from my faith. I'm a firm Christian, firm beliefs that I'm here on earth to spread love. And if there are other people who made the same choice as me to play quarterback at UCLA, off top, I have an immense level of respect for them, because I know that at heart, there's some link between us that called us to this place. Second is on a more, introspective place, is counting it all joy, regardless of what it is. And a lot of that comes with age and experience and perspective. I know that part of the reason why I'm able to be helpful for some of the younger guys is I've been in that position. I've been in the position where you have all these expectations. I was Gatorade Player of the Year my senior year in Texas. I came into UCLA with a lot of hype, and I ended up sitting. But I stayed ready for when it was time to play. And I know the balance of staying ready while also in the back of your mind saying, man, what am I doing all this for? But as age comes and as experience comes, and getting through the trials and recognizing that your perspective can change your experience, I recognize that finding joy in all of it has been key. And when you're able to put things in that perspective, I think hopefully for everyone else in the room, it doesn't feel hard to breathe. It doesn't feel like oxygen is scarce, because I think we all bring our own. And when that happens, we feed off of each other. And I think the quarterback room plays better. And when that happens, team plays better.
I'm curious for you, because you could read things online about what Chase Griffin wants to do later on. Where's your head at now of like, how do you want to utilize football? Of course, you want to continue to play for as long as possible. And I will be coming to your games and bringing my kids and begging you for post-game pictures with these two little guys that I have. But if you took football off the table, playing, what do you think? What do you see as next for Chase Griffin?
Well, so I have one more year of eligibility. I want to play here at UCLA. As far as football, I'll let God carry that. But I know every time I've played, I've been a good player, and I'm better now than I ever was. And each day I continue to get better. Off the field, because of name, image, and likeness, I've had a lot of practice on the production and talent side as far as branded deals. And right now I'm bridging into more traditional forms of content, like unscripted, so hosting and producing shows, and eventually films. And then eventually I want to get into scripted, acting, voice acting, and then producing film and TV. A big thing for me outside of, the talent production space and football is music. If it were just up to me and money wasn't a factor at all, I would probably stop everything else and just do football and music all day, every day. And so that's something that has been a huge creative outlet for me, and something that I think has kept me sane throughout these busy days. And it's also something that's productive and I think fits in nicely with my abilities in sports and media. And so what ties all of that together is investing. I'm a fellow at the UC Investment Office. which is a $164 billion fund. I was all about VC until the CIO there got me and sort of widened my view on what it meant to be an institutional investor. And I think between music, entertainment, and sports, I'm at a cool nexus in the talent and production space, and investing helps give me a worldview. God willing, I'm able to continue my philanthropy and then go into public service eventually.
I love it. All right, so the track to the president was still might be there. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so Chase, I call this my final five. First thought, first reaction. We'll get you out of here in about 2 minutes. Okay, so question number one, first thing that comes to mind on this one. What is the best advice you've ever received?
It's advice that my father actually said during his commencement speech that he did at Harvard Law. And he said, be yourself when you get there, because who you got you there is what's going to carry you on. And that goes back to authenticity, that goes back to faith, that goes back to everything, but realizing that taking agency in your life is one of the most important actions you can take, because it sets the trajectory of what you can become.
What is the worst advice you've ever received?
It's not really a worst advice, just because a lot of it just goes right by my head. But advice that I would say on a big don't is, when you're in high school, don't go out every Friday night and play to get offers. Play to win the game. And I think it's the same in college. Play to win the game, because then you'll do the right things.
Love that. I love that. Okay, number three. If anybody remembers, you can go back in the archives, and during Johnny Manziel's pro day, there was somebody snapping him the ball.
Yeah.
It was a young Chase Griffin. So Chase, more pressure heading into that environment, because he had, like, the first time ever anybody wore shoulder pads and a helmet in a pro day alongside you and George Whitfield, or when you headed up and played at Autzen or played against Arizona and started in major college football for UCLA.
You know, obviously I had nerves and anxiety before my first start, but when I play, it's the most fun I have on earth. So when I'm in the moment, I don't really feel anxious or pressure or anything like that. It's all fun for me. Plus, I feel like I'm more so in control. When I was snapping those passes, sometimes you don't know where those NFL balls go, especially when you're 10 years old, 11 years old.
I love it. That's one of my favorite things of all time, was watching you trot out the tunnel there,
Yeah.
you and Johnny and George. That was amazing, man. Number four, the title of this show, as you know, is The It Factory. I think everybody's got an it factor. It's hard to see. It's hard to define, but we all know it. So for you, how would you define your it factor?
It's my faith, 100%. I mean, it's my foundation. Is what I sort of look at when I feel down. And when I'm up, it's something that keeps me level-headed. And the number one thing it gives me is perspective, which I think, you know, on earth, having something that gives you perspective is everything, whether it be your family, your faith, your passion. Something has to help you take a step back and realize that when things are seeming great, they can be better, or when things are seeming down, they're as well as they've ever been.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest challenges in life is to, how can we live and compete to live with perspective versus get it when a moment forces us to say, ooh, somebody died, something traumatic happened. I feel like you live or compete to live with perspective pretty regularly, man. Final question for you is, how would you complete the following sentence? When you look at the totality of your experiences, from Elite 11 ball boy to starting quarterback to NIL entrepreneur, music, film, potential public service, how do you answer the following? It all comes down to what?
It all comes down to waking up the next day and doing it with gratitude again. There's a lot of wins to be had on every single day. And I think when you look at it and look at life that way, you continue doing the right things. You know, God tells us, man, you know, has these plans, but the Lord guides our steps. And I'm a firm believer that all the grand plans that I have, they'll be tweaked a little. And in the end, I'll look back and it'll happen better than even I ever wanted it.
Chase Griffin, I could talk to you for hours. I look forward to seeing you many more times and watching your life continue to flourish. I just keep imagining you at 11 with that shaved head and your Elite 11 shirt on that we got custom with your name on it, and just showing up everywhere with that type of vicarious joy that you just described. Chase, an honor to have you on, and it's been a blast getting to know you and track your journey throughout your process, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Yogi.
You got it. You got it. There it is. Chase Griffin, your favorite quarterback's favorite quarterback, a pioneer on many levels in this era of college football, and somebody I think no matter the age, no matter what we're doing, playing, fathering, being a friend, being a creative, whatever it may be, I think you pulled something from today's conversation. As always, share it with a friend, share it with a Bruin if you'd like to. I know UCLA fans are so proud of Chase Griffin. Yeah, there it is. With that said, give it a rating, give it a review. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're going to watch this on video, go to pac-12.com/insider or check it out on YouTube as well. With that said, thank you for the support. Much love. Peace.